Without the Holocaust, what would the world be?
We would have white people still. All of the niggers would not be here.
Jews would run the world without the Holocaust.
Fuck niggers, fuck Jews.
Jews are fine
If the
because they're
Holocaust
white.
never happened, Jews would be running the world right now.
It's fine. We just need niggers gone. So half
Think about
mix
that.
Oreos.
Think about that.
What are you gonna do with them?
You stick it in concentration
No,
camps
you
and
have to.
fucking
No, you have to
barb
wait till they die off.
We kind of run.
It's charging.
No, we run niggers because they do football for us and rap music, and we pay them for that.
No, they do nothing. Do you want to know what the fucking Democrat and like whole Republican?
How about we just kick out all the
Republicans
Democrats
are
and we go on
niggers
strike?
that want to
still
take white
videoing it?
people's money who don't.
Go, fam, get on that belly. Get up, boy. Get up, boy. Get up, stand up. Keep going. Oh, get it, boy. Get up, fam. You got it. Push, baby, push. Push, baby. Push, baby. Get on that belly. Get on that belly. There you go. Come on, Kay. Get up on his feet. Come on, baby. Oh, look at you go. Look at you go. You can do it. You can do it. You got it. Push, baby. Push, baby. Get it.
There you go. There you go. Oh, hell, you done hurt him, Kay. Damn. You done went flipped him too hard.
Umbrella. She's up. Whole nother level of shit you can't even understand.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another episode of The Forecast. Now, the dominant society goes out of their way to instill fear into our communities. They go out of the way to send us messages. And they have to. That's the only way they can maintain their dominance. Psychological warfare is one of the most important parts of white supremacy. They will do everything in their power to stop black unity. Because us being in power seems to take away everybody else's power. So they have to force into your mind that if you even think about it, there will be consequences. And it doesn't matter if you're old, if you're young, rich or poor, man or a woman. It doesn't matter who you are or what you've accomplished. Even though they say we are treasonous if we don't honor a racist song that talked about killing our ancestors. Meanwhile, black veterans have been terrorized from the first war to the last one. And it doesn't matter if they fought for this country, they still deal with the same racism. In everybody's time of need, we are the ones they come to fight for them. And time again, we think if we prove ourselves that things will change. But that's never been the case. In the War of 1812, America's second independence war, we already know how Francis Scott Key and many Americans felt about black people who fought with the British. How dare those slaves not want to be owned by us? And they're treasonous for even trying to get freedom. But the black veterans fighting on the American side didn't change their mind about racism and white supremacy either. Fighting with them didn't give them freedom. In fact, the black unity created more fear in the white communities, even though they were fighting in their best interests. America and everybody else has always offered black people the illusion of freedom whenever they need us to fight for them. But after the war was over, they got right back on code. They not only decided to destroy the free black communities that was established in Spanish Florida because they saw them as a threat. Andrew Jackson, before he became the president, led an army to burn their communities down and to re-enslave as many people or kill as many people as possible. America also attacked and destroyed free mulatto communities because they saw them as a threat that would eventually challenge the white status quo. It didn't matter how many black people helped fight for their freedom. When it was over, you went right back to being a nigga and was expected to happily go back to being a slave. And we fought in every single war from the first to the last, and they still treat black veterans the same way. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, Elliott Williams, who was a veteran that had dealt with mental illness in the past, died after he was paralyzed with a broken neck, laying in the jail cell for 51 hours with no food, water, or medical attention.
Elliott, lay down on the floor. Stay laid down. Do you understand me?
former chief deputy at the Tulsa County Jail describes the treatment of an inmate who died there as inhumane. It's the latest development in the federal civil rights trial of 47-year-old Elliott Williams, who died in the jail back in 2011. Fox 23's Ashley Lincoln is live with why former Chief Deputy Michelle Robinette is now changing her story.
Yeah, Michelle Robinette is now over the jail's mental health unit. She was over the detention officers at the time of Elliott Williams' death. Now, she stated in a 2013 deposition, Robinette says that staff did not break policy, but now she's changing her tune. 4 years ago, former Chief Deputy Michelle Robinette told attorneys her detention officers made several errors in the handling of Elliott Williams. But on the stand Monday, she told jurors a different story. She told Daniel Smolin, attorney for Williams' family, that during a 2013 deposition, she believed her detention officers failed to provide adequate care, did not follow policies, and treated Williams inhumanely. As we've reported, Williams was found dead in a jail cell in 2011 after suffering from a broken neck for days. However, Monday, Robinette told jurors after reviewing all of the files in this case, she believes the fault wasn't on her detention staff, but rather the medical provider. Attorneys for the sheriff's office have stated since day one of this trial, none of their detention officers did anything wrong, and it was up to the medical provider to do their job. Robinette told the court she'd only received a verbal reprimand from the sheriff's office at the time of Williams' death. She says she was told her actions were a lack of control over her unit and she dropped the ball. And Tulsa County Commissioner Karen Keefe took the stand earlier today on Fox 23 News at 6. I'll have why she says the county continue renewing the jail's medical provider's contract despite all of the issues that came up within those audit reports. Reporting live from downtown, covering news that matters, I'm Ashley Lincoln, Fox 23 News.
And we have more details tonight. Tulsa County Sheriff Vic Regalado took the stand today. He testified that his office is in the process of changing policies relating to inmate health care. Regalado has been in the courtroom for several days of the trial. When asked if he thought Williams received adequate care, he told the court he couldn't answer that question because he hasn't heard all of the testimony.
Now, this brother Elliott Williams, who was experiencing a mental breakdown after he was dealing with a divorce and his mom was sick, so a hotel employee called the police. When they got there, they said this brother wasn't compliant, so they pepper sprayed him because he wouldn't sit down when they told him to. Then they ended up arresting his brother on a misdemeanor obstruction because they said he was interfering with the cop's job. One cop, Benjamin Woolery, said the brother took a threatening step at the cops, so his partner, Officer Jack Wells, knocked him to the ground and then put a knee in his back like they usually do. Now, nobody seems to know how his neck got broken, but a cop said that one inmate said they saw this brother Elliott Williams banging his head against the wall, but it just so happened to be in a place where there wasn't any cameras. But in the report, when Elliott Williams got the booking, the cop Jack Wells slammed him again, trying to put him in handcuffs. The cops tried to say he was still fine at that point, he wasn't hurt, but the sheriff's office said in the video he did look hurt and that he was having trouble standing. This brother never even finished the booking process. He told the nurse that he couldn't walk and he thought his neck was broken. Then the nurse rubbed it for a few seconds and said he was fine, and she claimed he was faking it. Then after coming back a few hours later to check on him, this brother, who still haven't moved at all, ended up using the bathroom on himself. The jail captain, Michelle Robinette, said he may have a mental illness, but he's faking the injury. So then they took him to the shower, stripped his clothes off, and then literally dumped him off the gurney into the shower. One nurse said, "You should be ashamed of yourself. Quit faking and get your nasty ass in the shower." They left this brother in the shower for over an hour, close to 90 minutes. One guard said he saw him laying face down, screaming for help, but nobody did. They just left him. Then after they finally got him out the shower, they dragged him back to his cell completely naked, and he still couldn't move. He couldn't even get a drink of water. But everybody still said he was faking it. Then the next day, they dragged him into another cell with a camera just to see if he would move. And then they would throw his food into him. They would put water by his feet, but nobody ever actually helped him eat or drink anything. One nurse said she saw the condition he was in and tried to help, but they wouldn't even let her in the cell. Both the medical staff and the jail staff would literally go in there and taunt him as he laid there. They would say stuff like, you know, when you leave, you're going to have to walk to the car, so you might as well stop faking it. They ended up leaving him in there for 51 hours until he eventually died. And then the medical director said sometimes people just die trying to justify it.
We're hearing from the brother of a Tulsa County jail inmate who died in 2011 after family members say he didn't receive proper medical attention behind bars. Family members describe 47-year-old Elliott Williams as blessed, loved, and a man of dignity. Fox 23's Ashley Lincoln is live with what else Williams' brother wants jurors to know. Ashley.
Yeah, Shay, family members I spoke with tell me they have a lot of emotion towards their brother. Now, they just want people to know about the good man that he was. And his brother tells me of the 50-plus jail members that came into contact with Elliott Williams, not one was a good Samaritan by not offering him with any help.
Well, I can still see my mother's face as me and my brothers carried his casket to that grave. I can still see her face to this day.
Kevin Williams says life hasn't been the same since his brother, Elliott Williams, died at the Tulsa County Jail. How has this impacted your family?
It's very devastating. I'm still emotional, as you can see. I'm still emotional about it today.
Williams held back tears as he told jurors about the man he says his brother was.
He was a pillar in our family.
Williams says the Navy veteran had plans of taking over his parents' church once he retired, but that dream never came to fruition. As Fox 23 has reported, in 2011, jail staffers are accused of ignoring Williams' cries for help as he laid in a cell for days with a broken neck.
They should have called 911. Elliott would still be alive today if somebody had did something.
For the 51 hours Williams laid in this cell, his family's attorneys are seeking $51 million in this civil case. But his brother says no amount of money can fix their pain.
It ain't about money. To me, it's blood money. Seriously, it's blood money.
Defense attorneys for the Tulsa County Sheriff's Office say the fault wasn't on them, but on the jail's medical provider.
To tell you the honest God truth, the way that they're acting today and what I see that this defense is doing, I don't think there's no change because they can't see themselves. I don't think there's no change. There has to be, something has to be shaken up in them mentally and morally for them to change.
And the defense has stated in this case that Williams suffered from bipolar disorder and was suicidal. Well, Williams' brother told me that was not true, that his brother, in fact, was actually having a nervous breakdown from dealing with a mother who was battling stage 4 cancer and a troubled marriage.
The medical examiner ended up ruling his death was caused by spinal injury from blunt force trauma and dehydration. He tried to reach for the water one time and couldn't and ended up knocking it over. And both the medical staff and the jail staff heard him begging for help. And the whole time they kept saying he was faking it until he died. Then on top of that, 2 hours after his death, prosecutors officially charged him with obstruction. They charged him with a misdemeanor that's not even worth jail time. And all of this happened all because his brother refused to sit down when the cop told him to. The jail staff tried to blame the medical staff for what happened, while the medical staff said it was the jail staff fault. But at the end of the day, nobody was charged or punished at all. And they didn't even make any changes.
The former Tulsa County Sheriff told the court his staff did the best they could do in the civil rights case involving the death of an inmate at the Tulsa County Jail. 47-year-old Elliott Williams died in 2011. His family filed a lawsuit against Tulsa County and the health care provider for the jail at the time, saying he did not receive adequate care. Fox 23's Ashley Lincoln is live with why former Sheriff Stanley Glanz took the stand for a second time. Ashley.
Well, Shay, today attorneys for Elliott Williams' family walked the jury through audit reports that revealed a number of inmate deaths could have been prevented had medical treatment been given earlier. Attorneys for Elliott Williams' family says it was a decade of deteriorating decline in medical service at the Tulsa County Jail. Attorney Daniel Smolin put former Tulsa County Sheriff Stanley Glanz back on the stand for a second time Monday morning. He told Glanz had he made necessary corrections to the jail's medical unit, a number of inmate deaths could have been prevented, including Elliott Williams's. Glanz has stated from the start of this trial, none of his staffers did anything wrong. However, Smolin showed showed the court an excerpt from an audit report that says because of the lack of oversight and following a policy, if things didn't change, more inmates would die. I got my hands on the number of inmate deaths since Williams died and found since 2011, 20 inmates have died while in custody. In the last 10 years, Smolin says 10 people have died who could still be alive today had the jail followed regulated standards. Williams' sister has been present every day during this trial. Now, she told me at times it's been difficult to have to sit there and listen to the testimony, but she said she's staying because she wants to see justice done for her brother. Kim Hamilton wipes away tears as she thinks about the good times she had with her brother.
He was the type that got up in church and offered $1,000 to any child that made all A's on their report card. So this is my brother, and this is who I miss.
Hamilton tells me it's been painful listening to testimony.
What's mind-boggling to me is these same people, these same nurses, these same jail staff are still working, still at Tulsa jail, still walking around with no conscience.
She says her life was changed the day her brother died in 2011. We've told you Elliott Williams was found dead in a jail cell after suffering from a broken neck for 5 days.
I'm glad we're finally here trying to get justice for Elliott.
Hamilton says her brother was compassionate and feels jail staffers didn't return that compassion by not giving him any medical attention.
It's clear that they deliberately left him on the floor and they deliberately did not help him in any way whatsoever.
Attorneys for the Tulsa County Sheriff's Office say Williams' death wasn't their fault. They're placing the blame on the jail's medical provider at the time, saying they were the ones responsible for inmates' medical needs.
And his death will not be in vain.
Former Sheriff Stanley Glantz has also testified in this case that he believes police should have actually taken Williams to a mental facility instead of his jail. Now, coming up on Fox 23 News at 6, I'll have what was revealed in court this afternoon on how a former doctor at the jail treated inmates to see if they were faking their illness.
Now, since his brother Elliott Williams' death, 20 other people have died. And there were at least 10 preventable deaths if they had just done their job. The medical staff and the jail staff both falsified records. The jail supervisor, Michelle Robinette, changed her story, but nobody lost their jobs or were disciplined at all. Elliott Williams' family ended up suing for $51 million for every hour he was laying on the floor, and they ended up getting around $10 million in civil court. In the civil trial, a jury admitted it was wrong, admitted somebody was liable, and this brother needed justice. But even though this brother was a preacher's son, who was a veteran, who didn't have a record, and he was tortured, laying on the ground paralyzed with a broken neck for days, and nobody is punished. They go out of the way to send a message, and they stay on code. Like with Betty Shelby. They've already cleared her 3 times for killing Terrence Crutcher. This time is no civil rights charges against her. We already know she's cleared, but they keep bringing it up to send a message. But until we put aside our tribalism and get on code and do what we got to do and start sending messages of our own, then the same thing is going to keep happening.
Betty Shelby did not want to speak on camera about today's developments, but her attorney did.
News on 6's Amy Kaufman continues our live team coverage. Amy?
Well, Terry and Craig, Betty Shelby's attorney, Scott Wood, says they didn't even know this investigation was happening, but he says they're relieved to hear about this outcome.
This guy's still walking.
It's been 2.5 years since Tulsa police officer Betty Shelby shot and killed Terrence Crutcher outside his SUV. Now the Department of Justice says there's not enough evidence to charge Shelby with a federal criminal civil rights violation.
But it is good for reconfirmation of what we've said all along.
Tulsa County prosecutors charged Shelby with first-degree manslaughter, and a jury acquitted her in May of 2017. The Department of Justice says they looked at all the evidence from the state's case and also worked to enhance video of the incident.
Would have had access to all the videos and so forth, and I understand they did have a copy of the jury trial transcript. So I'm certain it was a very, very thorough investigation.
Federal investigators ultimately determined that the evidence was not enough to establish that Officer Shelby's use of force was objectively unreasonable under the Supreme Court's definition.
She acted reasonably, and she acted just how she was trained to react in a situation like this.
Wood says Shelby is moving forward with her life, working as a deputy with the Rogers County Sheriff's Office, but says some days are harder than others.
It's always difficult when you have a lawsuit that's still pending and can be pending for several years to kind of put anything behind you. So, you know, it's an ongoing process for her.
Former Tulsa police officer Betty Shelby will not speak at a law enforcement conference in Baton Rouge this week. Shelby was set to talk to the conference about what officers might face in the aftermath of a controversial incident. Organizers uninvited her after backlash from civil rights leaders. Shelby's attorney tells News on 6 Baton Rouge police told him they could not guarantee her safety. Shelby was acquitted in the 2016 shooting death of Terrence Crutcher, an unarmed black man.
You're on my property with a gun in your hand, threatening to shoot me because I'm picking up trash. I hope that camera comes on. Shoot me? I don't have a weapon. This is a bucket. This is I'm not sitting down. You can't make me.
He's picking up trash.
He's got a gun. 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 What do you mean? This is my property. This is my house. I live here. Down and drop it. I'm on duty doing my work and my job. When this officer comes over here, I give him my stuff. Your hand. That's not you because you're not listening. You have a gun in your hand. I don't have a weapon. Drop it. Focus on me. Just focus on me. Focus on me. What do you mean? Focus on you. There's just relax. Put that object down. This is my property. We just want to talk.
Dude, there's 6 cops. Zayd has a clamp in his hand thinking
This is my boy video right here.
He lives here.
I live here. I'm a resident of this property. I'm picking up garbage from my door. I go to school here. I go to school here. I will not sit down. I refuse to sit down until you guys put your weapons away.
Boulder police are conducting an internal investigation after officers confronted a black man who was picking up trash. Citing a press release from the department, the Daily Camera reports an officer saw the man sitting behind a private property sign. The officer asked the man if he was allowed to be there. Authorities say the man told the officers he lived as well as worked in the building and showed ID. The officer then reportedly made a request for backup, saying the man was uncooperative and unwilling to put down a blunt object. Police found the object was a device used to pick up trash. The incident was captured on Facebook. The man says he's not sitting down and police can't make him in the video. He counts out 8 police officers. Again, police say they are conducting an internal investigation.
Now there's growing fallout from a new indictment in the gun trace task force scandal. Federal prosecutors accuse a sergeant, who is now retired, of planting a gun and ordering a witness to lie. WJZ investigator Mike Halgren is live at City Police headquarters with details on the case. Mike.
Lynn, the GTTF scandal is not yet over. 4 officers have been suspended. Sergeant Keith Gladstone is the subject of that new indictment. He's a retired sergeant, as you said, and he right now has pleaded not guilty. He's been released on his own recognizance. Retired Baltimore Police Sergeant Keith Gladstone has been indicted and faces federal charges. He planted a BB gun on a man and asked witnesses to lie.
You have a gun and cocaine?
Federal prosecutors cite his ties to WJ, believed to be Sergeant Wayne Jenkins, the disgraced head of the gun trace task force, and say Jenkins called him in a panic after deliberately running over a man in northeast Baltimore in 2014. The feds say Gladstone planted the gun on the man and instructed a fellow officer to lie if authorities ever questioned him and claimed they were there for scene security. It's not the only controversy the retired sergeant has faced.
There was much more needed to be done.
He's being sued in connection to an incident in 2010 where drugs were planted on 2 men. They were wrongly sent to prison. Among the others listed in that lawsuit, Jenkins and the late Detective Sean Suter, who died the day before testifying in front of a grand jury in the case. Suter's family has denied he committed any wrongdoing.
And the persons that did this are the people who were opposed to protect and serve.
And in the unrest that followed the death of Freddie Gray in 2015, Gladstone was one of the officers involved in this incident where Larry Lomax was pepper sprayed and then pulled down and arrested. A jury awarded Lomax $75,000 in a civil suit.
We have many, many more of these cases. This is by no means the exception to the rule.
Ivan Bates has represented several citizens who claimed wrongdoing by Gladstone.
When we realized and we compared notes about what was happening in the city, then we realized that we had to do something to try to make sure these officers were not going to be successful.
Sergeant Gladstone's attorney says he has no comment because he's still reviewing the allegations, and sentencing that was set for another disgraced member of the GTTF, Detective Jamel Rayam, was supposed to happen this week. It has now been postponed.
Black History Month, so thank you all for participating in this. I'm going to go ahead and remove it.
A Black History Month poster is stirring up controversy at Port Charlotte High School. You see it there. The school district forced a teacher to take down a door decoration showing NFL player Colin Kaepernick kneeling during the pledge. NBC2's Claire Lavazorio talked to district officials to find out why.
A teacher nearly brought to tears
Participating in this.
after the Charlotte County School District asked her to take down this poster, put up as a celebration of Black History Month.
We were in a lose-lose situation. It really did not matter what we did at that time.
I just want to know why. It doesn't make any sense.
Mike Riley with the Charlotte County School District says once parents got news of the poster being displayed, the school's phones started ringing off the hook.
And when they were putting up, a couple kids took some pictures, posted them on social media. It just blew up.
The former quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers stirred up controversy for kneeling during the national anthem. Some supporting his actions, others calling it disrespect.
Our school is a microcosm of our society, and that individual, right or wrong, caused a very divisive situation for our country.
Despite the uproar, the district hopes it's a lesson to learn from.
This could turn out to be a great civics lesson for our students.
A 12-year-old facing a felony charge after his brush with a police officer is back in court today. CBS 46's Daniel Wilkerson has the story from Cobb County Magistrate Court.
This is a case that garnered a lot of attention. Young Corey Jackson, an upcoming rapper, back in court. His attorney says today they denied the charges.
It's mind-blowing, it swept me off my feet.
Tuesday, he answered to his charges.
I know that I didn't do anything wrong.
12-year-old Corey Jackson, known as Corey J, an upcoming rapper in a Cobb County court, denied what he's accused of.
It was just ludicrous, crazy.
His attorney says the youngster faces some serious charges.
Unfortunately, one of them is a felony obstruction of an officer, a misdemeanor obstruction of an officer, disorderly conduct with violence, as well as criminal trespassing.
Where are you, Chase?
You may recall this.
You're about to go to jail.
Corey J, October of last year, inside the food court at the Cumberland Mall when he was grabbed by an officer and threatened with arrest. The report then was he'd been in trouble twice before for selling his CDs in the mall. His attorney Tuesday denied that.
When he was there, he was not selling any CDs or doing anything that would have been prohibited. He was there meeting other artists.
I reached out to the prosecutor on the case but did not get a call back right away.
Now, what do you say to people who may wonder whether maybe he or his parents are using this case as an opportunity and maybe exploiting the situation here to publicize his son's work?
He didn't invite this situation.
It's a new experience that I honestly hope to never be in that same position again.
So what's next in all of this? Well, the young rapper's attorney is hoping that it will all be thrown out. If not, he says it'll head to trial.
Ma'am, listen to me. Listen. Don't even say yes. Just listen. Pretrial services. Ma'am, listen. Say it again. Ma'am, do you need water?
Just nod your head.
Yes, and I'm breathing treatment.
Ma'am, I'm not here to talk to you about your breathing treatment. Excuse me. Oh, Lord. Excuse me, don't say anything beyond what I am asking you. Trust me, I am ma'am. Ma'am. She lives with who?
She lives with me and she lives with my daughter in Miami.
Is that a different location?
Yes.
Excuse me. Oh, counsel. You've already said too much. Listen, please.
That's like saying N-I-G-G-E-R.
Hell yeah! Let's go! Let's go!
Oh my God! It's a curse for my people. You will not say it in school again today or in lessons. Knock it off. I'm done.
During a debate at North Kingstown High School, a Compassion Party candidate for Attorney General in the state of Rhode Island was at the center of an incident that got national attention.
Eyewitness News reporter Anita Buffoni is in the control room with the story new tonight.
Attorney General candidate Alan Gordon compared the use of the term marijuana to a racial slur, then spelled it out in front of an auditorium filled with students. A video taken in the audience captured the scene where Gordon took issue with opponent, former Rhode Island U.S. Attorney Peter Nerona, and the forum's moderator for using the word marijuana. Gordon is a member of the Healing Church in West Greenwich that uses cannabis for religious services. In a statement following the incident, Gordon's campaign said in part, "The word is an ancient curse against his people, and enough blacks, Latinos, and natives find the word marijuana offensive when uttered by whites that its use is best politely avoided by saying cannabis instead." Pina Nerona was later interviewed on WPRO News Talk Radio the next day and stood by the use of the word marijuana, saying that's how it's referred to in federal and state statutes.
I think that behavior yesterday was not something that I would ever engage in. And, I guess I'll let the voters and the kids sort of judge whether that was appropriate or not.
Jim Vincent, head of the Rhode Island NAACP, was troubled by Gordon's remarks, especially since he spelled out the word in front of a group of young students.
Ironically, there may be some validity in terms of the term marijuana having some racist beginning. However, even with that being the case, it shouldn't be an analogy with the N-word.
North Kingstown Superintendent Phil Auger issued a statement saying, "We invite all registered candidates and we only ask that they are respectful and appropriate. In this case, the candidate was disruptive in his demeanor and inappropriate with his language. He was addressed and decided to leave."
According to Reuters, a Rhode Island gubernatorial candidate and her partner have been arrested for what police said was 48 pounds of marijuana. Compassion Party candidate Ann Armstrong has been arrested with Alan Gordon, who is the Compassion Party's candidate for Attorney General. The couple have made a number of unsuccessful attempts to run for office. They were both charged with possession of marijuana and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. The couple was ordered on $25,000 bail.
These lovebirds say it started with a crush.
We were in second grade.
Yeah, it was like second grade. I remember I stopped her mother. I stopped her and I said, "I'm going to marry Angie." And she said, "No, I'm sorry, you can't, but you can be friends."
Family vacations would bring them together, but social norms would draw them apart again.
This is something that I've always felt very, like it wasn't life was unfair. Like, why did the person that I want to be with the most and had the most attraction to, the most natural feelings for, why did you have to be my cousin?
They reunited after 10 years this winter, both recently single, both ready to take the plunge.
We're like, okay, this is crazy, but we're adults now, we're single now, we're just gonna go for it, and who cares what our family thinks.
They're crossing two big hurdles to get married. The most obvious is genetics. According to researchers at Columbia University, first cousins share 12.5% of their DNA. First cousins who have children face a 4 to 7% chance of their child having a genetic disorder, as opposed to a 3 to 4% chance for an average couple.
The genetic consequences, the biological consequences are very small. It's more what people might think and say.
The second major hurdle is the law. Here in Utah, it is illegal for first cousins to get married unless they are 65, 55 if they can prove they are infertile. So the two went to Colorado yesterday to tie the knot.
As soon as we crossed over the state border, we're not married anymore.
The two are gathering signatures and hope to change the law here in Utah.
No one I've ever been with will make me feel as perfect as she does. And her being my cousin and some of the responses is a small price to pay. I've always loved you, Angie. You know that.